Hi, I'm Chris from Marineware in Southampton, and today we're talking about our Durapox range with a bit of a more detailed run through of each of the individual products. Joining me today is a couple of my colleagues. First up, we've got Simon, who most of you will probably know.
Hi all.
And joining us, we've also got Jamie, who looks after our central south coast area, so a lot of the Durepox users will know him quite well as well.
Good afternoon, guys.
So moving swiftly into the range, Simon, do you want to just give us a quick rundown of the sort of background of Durepox and where it's come from?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Durepox is made in New Zealand, and it was originally made as a holding primer for automotive reasons, and they needed a really good holding primer out there. And it was so tough, this primer, they started using it on the workshop floor. And the next thing it ended up on was the Team New Zealand America's Cup boat. And they painted the boat in black because they also found that Durepox was very light, and it was and the black is the lightest color. Went on the New Zealand America's Cup boat. That did very well. It became very, very popular on racing yachts throughout the world, and eventually got up to us in the UK. And so, Durepox's history is from cars to boats, and now up to us, and we're using it on a large proportion of the race boats around the UK and Med.
Cool, perfect. I think one of our other videos we go into some of the other uses that it's still used for as well. But so Jamie, do you want to just take us through what Durepox is and what properties make it good for race yachts?
So Durepox is a hybrid coating, and it's a cross between an epoxy and a urethane. So what this is doing is, epoxies, as we all know, are some of the most heavily used in the marine industry, and they're used for toughness. Urethanes, on the other hand, part of the polyurethane family, also a hard coating, but very durable, very scratch resistant. So this Durepox have managed to get quite a unique product and coating, and so we end up with an epoxy urethane.
Oh, okay, perfect. And Simon, where do we normally use it? Where do we see it?
Well, as I said, coming from the America's Cup side, we're seeing it on race boat bottoms. And we're seeing it now on the high-end race boats, like the image you can see in the middle there, full wraps in the Durepox. That in turn has become very popular for the dinghy world, and foils and actual complete paints on dinghies, again because of the toughness, especially the loads that are going through these foils these days. So throughout the race boat world, we're seeing it on yacht masts and clear coats. And we've done 2 separate webinars, as Chris mentioned, on both specialising on race boat coatings and on the dinghies and foils. But also, we're using it train station platforms. We're using it on wind turbine blades. We're using it on high-end automotive cars, high-impact areas on very high-end sports cars, and the list goes on just because of its durability and its toughness.
Excellent, thanks. So just a quick outline of the system before we get into each individual product. Starting at the substrate, there's a high solids primer, which is their sort of robust high build. Moving out, there's the Durepox primer, which is what most people traditionally just know as Durepox. And then we move into the high performance clear product, which is they're very common for clear coating carbon and putting a shine on over the primer. And then a few other products, their extreme product, which is designed for foils and sort of higher loading applications. Okay, let's get started with high solids primer. Simon, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So the high solids primer, one of the more recent additions to the Durepox range. So many of the people out there that know Durepox primer well might not know this product. It is a high build version of the Durepox primer that Jamie will talk to you about in a minute. It's got quick build, it's got high build per coat, it's fast drying. It basically has all those properties that you expect of Durepox, but in a slightly or much thicker film thickness. We've tested this product. It's data sheet. It will tell you how much you can put on. We've abused it, and it's robust. You know, we know that you guys are probably going to put a bit more on, and you're not going to do it at 20 degrees. You're going to do it at 5 degrees. So it's pretty robust. It will take most things. So really good product, and it's proven very popular as an addition to the range. We're actually struggling to get enough product over from New Zealand. It's our biggest problem at the moment. So yeah, starting to go really well, and we're building stocks wherever we can. I'll pass you over to Jamie to talk a little bit about the classic Durapox primer, though.
Yeah, cheers, Simon. I think, as you said, you alluded earlier, this is kind of the meat of the system. Everybody, Chris also mentioned it, is considered the main Durapox, and this is probably the most common part of the system that we see. The Durapox primer has terrific characteristics that I've seen it go on most substrates without any problem. It's highly, it's highly pigmented. It's very hard in texture, it's quick drying. We can color it, and point to note, we can now bring some of the fluoro colors in, so we can get it in pink, yellow, and orange. And this is proving really popular in a lot of race boat market for foils, fins, and also ISAF recognition patches underneath the boats for a lot of the offshore fleet. When this product's cured, it's very tough, and we use this to be able to polish up through the systems. And you'll see some slides shortly with the primer being painted and then polished up through the grades. We have a lot of we can RAL tint this mix, and as I said earlier, with the fluoros as well. But a point to note, it is a very matte system because we are tinting a primer, so it isn't as easy as saying I need this mixed to a certain color, because we are tinting a primer and not a top coat. And generally what the guys back in the mixing room will do with the aid of Durepox is get as close as we physically can to it. And it's pretty amazing, some of the matches I've seen from under the waterline with a Durepox primer to, let's say, a top coated glossy yacht. Really quite good in appearance.
Jamie, just the video that we just showed, that was a job that you were with the customer, Kustom Coatings, only a couple of days back, wasn't it?
Yeah, the guys at Kustom Coatings had been asked to, this boat here is being dry sailed, henceforth the primer. And the guys, as you can see behind, we're in a boatyard outside. Just shows you how tolerant this coating is. It was tent sheeted off. We had some indirect heating into there, a little bit of extraction, and the guys there painted 5 coats of the Durepox primer within an afternoon. This then went on to Will, who came back later, and you can see the finished article there. You notice I've just chopped the bow off there because that's still got a little bit of guide coat on it. But he's now gone through the grades and sanded this to 600 grit, which gives us a really cracking underwater profile for a race yacht.
So everyone knows we're Friday today. What was the day you sprayed that on?
That was done on Tuesday.
Perfect. Okay, so that makes sense. Thanks for that, Jamie. I shall move on to the top coat in the range, if you like, high performance clear, HPC as it's known as, and the clear coat's really come into its own. Quite often in the early days, actually, Jamie, you'll remember this as well, and Chris, but in the early days when we were doing race boats, we just used the primer, didn't we? And we polished it up as best we could, and the race boats were all just finished on the primer on its own. Probably you both got involved in that in the race boat world, didn't you?
Yeah, done way too much of that. It never stays shiny either.
Not a great job. A point tonight, though, obviously it is when on some colours, the darker colours like the dark greys and the blacks, which I've seen before, it will bring you on nicely to the mixed system, Simon, for in the next couple of chapters. But it can be quite tricky to bring up because you often see a lot of guys in the yards. There's a lot of swearing under their breath going on because they've actually left the boat 3 or 4 days before the polishing process starts, and it's a testament to how hard Durepox is as a coating.
Yeah, exactly. So these days, what most of the boats do, when you see the TP52s and the America's Cup boats, and actually, if you go to our next video, which is purely about race boat finishes, you'll see a picture of a certain America's Cup boat in New Zealand being coated, and you'll see that them put the graphics on with the primer, followed by the clear at the end. So these days we tend to top coat with the clear, but since we've been using that for race boats, we found that again it has the same properties as the primer. It sticks to virtually everything. I think you're still trying to get that primer off your phone, aren't you, Jamie, from that video?
Yeah, I need a new one on that. Yeah.
And the Durepox Clear has all those same properties. So we use it to top coat the primer. You don't have to. People can polish up the primer. You can leave it just off the gun finish, like the race boat that Jamie just showed you. That didn't have the clear coat. That was just an underwater coating. But the high performance clear, brilliant clear coat. It's got great UV resistance. It's got great toughness, great adhesion. Two images here. One is a large race boat, which was all done in Durepox primer and then Durepox clear. On the left-hand side here, you see is a cockpit table, a solid wooden, beautifully made table. And that table, we needed to build up some coatings on it. It needed to be UV stable, and we needed to build them up quickly. And Durepox Clear was the one we chose for it, because actually with use of the accelerator as well, we could build up onto, I think that one was teak. We could fill the grain of teak pretty quickly. Actually finished off with another product of ours called Allcraft 2000 Clear from the All Grip range, but they do go together very well. Also very, very popular on carbon fiber. It's like it's used in the carbon fiber world almost like an undercoat for top coat and filling of pinholes. If I move on here, you can see a piece of carbon fiber. We have used various tricks for filling the carbon fiber. Actually, Glenn, our colleague, talks about them in greater length, but in some of the other videos we've done. But pinholes, quite difficult to fill. And by, again, the speed and the adhesion we get through a carbon fiber is superb, so we can build it up pretty quickly. Great adhesion, great build. You do not need to top coat this. The Durepox Clear has got a great UV package in it. It's superb. In fact, it's good, if not better, than the other UV packages you get in automotive. Possibly our marine ones are slightly better. In fact, they are. There's a reason why they cost a little bit more, some of our Allcraft 2000. So quite often we'll finish with that. Allcraft 2000. It's also polishable, or a lot easier polishable than the very tough Durepox. So mixed systems, what we're talking about mixed systems is one thing we can do. We use this on decks quite a bit. We can mix the primer and the clear coat together. Crazy stuff, I know, but it's 4-to-1 with hardener, and the hardener's the same and the thinners are the same, so you can mix them together. The more clear you add to the primer, the shinier the coating gets, the more UV protection it gets. So the picture of the mast on the right hand side, in racing configuration that was full matte, but after a year and a bit in the med it would come back slightly chalky, and as they went into a cruising configuration they added more clear into when they painted it. It got slightly shinier, not full gloss, but actually lasted longer because it's got the clear in it. Also on decks, that's quite handy if you want to use Durepox on decks because it's hard wearing, is we put a bit of clear in, we increase the shine a little bit, make it easier to clean, that sort of thing. Since we've been doing that, there is a new addition to the team, which is we have a flattening agent, specific flattening agent for our Durepox Clear. It's a powder and it's specifically designed to go into clear, so it comes up very clear in the coating, and that's a really useful tool to have as well. And again, we mentioned just at the beginning we're talking about top coating it with other marine products. The Allcraft 2000 from All Grip is often used over the top, because it's a known quantity in the marine industry for UV, and quite often its repairability is very good, and it's the same repairability, it's the same paint that's on the hull side of the boat, so it makes life easier to repair for everybody. It's the same product. But that sort of takes us through the mixed systems. But developed after that, we used to use the Durepox Clear on foils, predominantly developed again in the America's Cup as we all went foiling. But I don't know if you remember back to the days of the America's Cup in America, last in some very large 75-foot catamarans. They were getting big. You're getting multi-hulls going, foiling nigh on 50 knots. And the hydrostatic loads were causing problems for the Durepox Clear coming off the carbon. And believe you me, Durepox Clear sticks to carbon better than anything else out there. But the loads were so high, they had to develop something new, and they developed Durepox Extreme. So it was developed for those massive foils. Again, the wear and tear as they go up through the cases is massive. The loads are massive. The hydrostatic pressures trying to rip the coating off them are massive. This coating is Durepox Clear on steroids. It's tough, actually. People say, oh, it must be so hard. Actually, it's more tough, slightly rubbery nature to it in actual case. It's got this unique ability between being hard and tough. So its abrasion resistance is immense, but its adhesion to carbon is just second to none. and its peel strength is second to none. So we're using this on very, very high end, very, very highly loaded hydrofoils, but we're also finding uses for it elsewhere now because of its toughness. So leading edge of wind turbine blades is something we're playing with pretty hard at the moment. We talk about that in another video, so I shall move on to that. Pass you back to Chris to talk about some of the ancillary products, the tools which help us get the finishes we want.
Yeah, cheers, Simon. The range is, they're the key base products that we've run through, but there's a number of additives that are worth mentioning. The first is the hardener. All the high performance clear and the primers all use the same hardener. They're all 4-to-1. The only exception is the Durepox Extreme, which is 5-to-1. There's also two types of reducer. There's a normal and a slow, which is generally used more in warmer climates, but I do know some people, I think you're one of them, Simon, that likes to use the slow to get a bit better flow after spraying it.
Yeah, I prefer the slow, actually. Yeah, I mean, all is fine, but slow's my favorite one.
Also, if you're spraying in a booth with a high airflow, the slow tends to help you get a better finish. There's also the accelerator. Durapox is a fast system. It goes off quickly in the paint world, and you can accelerate it up to 5%, which halves the cure time, which is good for doing like little repairs and bits and pieces, but you never particularly want to use it doing a whole boat, because if you have it in your gun for too long, it can go off in the gun quite quickly, and that can get quite expensive for spray guns. Yeah, the other problem with the accelerator is sometimes it slightly restricts the flow, which again, using the slower reducer kind of counteracts. And the last, as Simon mentioned, was the matting agent, which is it's a dry powder, but it's designed. A lot of matting agents can go slightly cloudy when you put them into a clear. This powder goes clear when it gets wet, so it can break up the gloss level, but it doesn't give you any loss of clarity, which is great for going over graphics or over a clear carbon weave as well. You got much experience with the clear, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm going to take you back to the slow. It was interesting when we all talked to our colleague Dave, who joined us in the next video. But he uses the normal reducer and never touches the accelerator. I use the slow reducer because I'm not as good a sprayer as Dave, so I need as much flow as I can get. But I actually use it in combination with the accelerator because after it's done its flowing, I want it to go off really quickly because I've never got enough time to finish the job. Because I think you and I, and Jamie, you're probably the same. Quite often when you were using it on the race boats that you used to look after, you just needed to get the foil, the rudder, or the small component back into action as quickly as possible, didn't you?
I totally think that. I mean, dependent on what we've got here is a list of products to be able to tune the system to suit the actual applicator. So if we're in a spray booth with the top end conditions, we've got an option there. But if we are tenting a boat in polythene and having, a makeshift extraction and heating on there, this week or today, -3 when we went out the door this morning, it just helps the product get to the job, and then it shows all these little bits can just fine tune it to make the actual job for the applicator easier, which I think is from visiting or most of my customers that you're involved in a race boats is essential for any coating.
Yeah, I think the interesting point is that we go around between the three of us and our other colleagues, Glenn and Dave, who join in the next few videos. We all have slightly different ways of doing it, but it never goes wrong. And I think one of the things that we love about the Durapox system here at Marineware so much is it's pretty robust. It does it cold, hot, fast, slow, accelerated, not accelerated. It sort of always works, and it's a reliable, safe pair of hands. And I think that's probably one of the things that we enjoy so much about Durapox. Would you guys agree with that?
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can go into most of our customers, and certainly the racer orientated ones, and you'll always find it in a Durapox in their cupboard, just for those moments when they need something quick to happen.
One thing, actually, just while you were talking about the accelerator, it's an interesting point, and the watch out, and this is something we get with quite a lot of our other product ranges. All the guys will have seen this at some point. when you're adding small amounts of something, 2.5%, 5%, like the accelerator, quite often see people reach for a syringe. Be careful of those. They've got silicone grease to make them slide up and down. You will put a contaminant straight into your paint. So please don't measure out the accelerator with a syringe. I've seen it too many times out there, and it always causes a fisheye reaction in the paint. Yeah.
I think if there was ever a product you could get away with it's probably Durepox, but it's not something we certainly don't recommend.
Yeah, no, it's not a good idea. But yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, I think that gives us a good rundown of the products. That's fantastic. And Chris, have we got any other questions you want to ask myself or Jamie? Or
no, I think we've covered pretty much everything. One thing, the clear, we can offer that as a pigmented product as well.
No, that's a very good point. The clear coat also comes as a product known as DTM, which is basically pigmented clear. So we can actually make the top coat coloured as well, which it can be a pretty useful tool sometimes, depending on what you do.
So yeah, I think that's given a good insight into each of the products in the range. All that's left is to say thank you for joining us. And if there's anything that we haven't covered, or you've got any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us at marineware.com. And I just left to say thank you to Simon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
And thank you to joining us from Jamie as well.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
And thanks from me. Goodbye.